Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Jamal Nasir, and today in this talk we will talk about new era of natural language processing. So Umar has already introduced me. I am a research fellow at Data Science Institute and UIG, and my area of research is mainly NLP applications. I also did my PhD in NLP, text mining, more precisely. I have been worked in IIU Islamabad as well. I did my research fellowship at RMIT and some projects with TU Darmstadt, Germany during my PhD. So if you can see this chart or graph, you can see the population of the world is around in 2020 7.6 billion, but there are so many internet connected devices, right, which are like 50 billion internet connected devices. And this estimate was in 2011 by Cisco. And you can imagine like this was the estimate. And but obviously after 9 years, that figure would be obviously population is almost same. It's correct. But internet connected devices are more than that. So internet connected devices per person, if we can divide, is on average is 6. Like we are using internet on our mobile phones, on our like iPads, right? Other than computers, and computers could be our office computer, or and then in back to home in our on personal laptops. So there are so many interconnected devices. What does it mean? That it means that if people are connected through internet, they are generating data, right? So in 1960s, there was one law. It was not a law technically, Moore's law, but it was more about some sort of prediction that in upcoming time, the technology would be advanced after 2 years, right? And the size of the chip would be reduced half. So you can see that like there is a time when we would have only 1 MB or 2 MB hard disk in a complete room, in a one big room, but now we have terabytes of storage in a very small chip, in a very small USB available, right? So so according to this thing, like every 2 years, technology is would be doubled. Like if we can compute 1 GHz, we have 1 GHz processor. In 2 years, we would have 2 GHz. It would be doubled. But the size of that chip, or you can say that all the devices would be reduced by half. So this was one observation. But if we see, okay, this is very advancement that technology would be increased or it would be doubled every 2 years. But the problem is that because of this connected devices and all the internet stuff, this amount of data is doubling every 9 months. So you can imagine that like if Facebook or Google is producing millions of terabytes data, and in the next 9 months, it would be double, right? So this is a bottleneck. Technology would be doubled after 2 years, but the data would be doubled after 9 months, which means that still we have 12 plus 3, 15 months, right? So here are a few examples of big data. Like in 1 TB hard disk, we can store around 250,000 songs, right? But you can see at the bottom, right bottom, that Google is processing, or Google servers are processing 1 petabyte of data for every 72 minutes, right? And similarly, we have 530 terabytes of videos data on YouTube. So a lot of data is there. It means that we need more efficient way to store this data, and not only store this data, we have to retrieve this data as well, right? When you upload photos on Facebook, then obviously you want to see it, and even your friends and all the stuff, right? So so retrieval, this cause problem of retrieval. And obviously data is power, like right now, so many companies and similarly, even election campaigns are with running with data. And so there are so many articles you can read on the paper that that people can predict uh, like who would be the next president of US. Even in Pakistan, I remember we have one competition before 2018 elections, and there was one guy from Nust University who predicted like more than 215 constituencies result, even 3 days or 4 days before the election, and he was correct in 200, more than 215 constituencies. We also participated, and our accuracy was like 180 something constituencies. So you can see with the help of data, we can predict future, and we can predict different things like on Google flu trends. You can see where this epidemic or problem is going on. And similarly, in 2020 election, this person predicted Barack Obama's exact situation before the elections, right? On the basis of data, he predicted that okay, in this county, he will get this much electoral votes, all the results, and it was 100% correct. So problem is that like we have a lot of data, and our technology would be doubled after 2 years, but our data would be doubled after 9 months, right? So you can see from this figure, like 90% of the data is unstructured. So like informal structured data, like data in SQL, in databases, this is very structured and it's very easy to retrieve because I know how to write SQL queries, right? And how to group data. And most of the time that data is definitely clean. That's why it's in the database, right? But 90% of the data is unstructured. So this figure, you can see that like in 2020, this amount would be 44 zettabyte, right? And out of that data, 90% is unstructured. This unstructured data type could be in the form of text files and documents, right? Web pages. You can say that server, website, and application logs, sensor data, images, video files, audio files, emails, social media data, right? So this is unstructured data, which is around, there is another study from Oracle, which says that like 80% of the data is unstructured, but this study was saying 90%, but to be on safer side, we know that like 70 to 80% at least data is unstructured over the internet. So there are some characteristics of this data, like unstructured in the form of text, HTML, XML data, right? And it's diverse in the form of emails, news, research articles, blogs, reviews, right? And you can imagine all this stuff is in multilingual, in different languages as well, right? So this is diverse. And large volumes you can check even World Wide Web size on which you can see like there are, yeah, I checked tomorrow, in fact, today early in the morning, and it was like 3.49 billion pages. So this is huge amount of web pages that are indexed by Google, 3.49 billion pages. It means that even one person has some capability, some superpowers to to see one page in 1 second. He needs 1,000 years of life or more than 1,000 years of life if he wants to continue, want all the pages, serve all the pages that have been built, right? So obviously no one has got like 1,000 years of age, and no one can crawl 24/7 web pages, but we need information from this so many huge amount of data. So during the year 2020, can you guess how many emails that were sent and received in 1 minute? Any rough guess if you can speak or type? Average in 1 minute, worldwide, obviously.
A billion?
Okay. So we have options: 1 million emails sent or received in 1 minute, or 10 million, 100 million, or 200 plus million.
It would be 200 plus million.
Yeah. So you can imagine that like world is sending or receiving 200 plus million emails, and obviously many of them or most of them are spam, but still you have to make applications or algorithms so that you can block that spam email. But still 200 plus million emails are like per minute is huge, right? So this statistics is from this link. So in 2011, there was one machine, IBM's machine, IBM Watson machine. It wins a one quiz show, like from the winners who have win this like this show for 10 or 20 times. But obviously, you can say that, okay, if one machine has all the data of information, then it's very easy to answer quiz like when Pakistan was created or some other question, right? Anyone can say that if all the data is in my memory, I can simply answer that question, but it's not that easy, right? So this is an overview of Watson machine at that time. So the main crux is that like in terms of database or in terms of data, they have contains multiple versions of Wikipedia, right? And like 200 million pages of structured and unstructured content was consuming, right, inside the Watson. But the thing is like how to extract exact answer from that 200 million pages within short time. You know that in a quiz you don't have so much time, maximum 30 seconds or 1 minute to answer any question, right? So from this motivation we have so there is no shortage of data over the internet, but how we can extract useful information, right? This is the important task of NLP. And why we are talking about NLP? Because when we have 80% of the data is unstructured, then it means that it would be in the form of blogs, in the form of HTML, in the form of Facebook comments, right? So we have to make algorithms that are more efficient, fast as well, to get right information. So I will skip this thing that Watson was like deep learning based question answering system. We will discuss chatbots and all the stuff and deep learning thing. So you will be more clear about this thing. So there are two different definitions of mining, right? In mining, we actually want useful things, useful patterns, and obviously non-obvious patterns, right? If someone says 2 plus 2 is 4, then obviously it is not data mining or machine learning thing because it's very obvious, right? Or we have some deterministic formulas. But when we have some probabilistic approaches, then it's data mining. So we need useful and non-obvious patterns, and obviously from the massive data and all the stuff. So how to perform text mining? In this talk, when I'm saying text mining, it means that application of NLP, okay? So you can interchange text mining with NLP because in text mining, we would be using majorly applications or algorithms of NLP. So NLP and text mining in this talk is almost same. So as computer scientists, we view it as text mining is actually data mining plus text data, right? And in data mining, information retrieval, we have different applied machine learning algorithms, statistics, right? And natural language processing. And data is similar that we talked about earlier, scientific literature, emails, tweets, news articles, software documentations, blogs, web pages, right? So this sort of thing is text data. So typical data science process is same for NLP as well. So firstly, because many MS students or PhD students are attending this talk, so I would say like how to find new topic or how you can narrow down your research topic is very important thing, obviously, for everyone. So, but this data science process can help you. Like if you want, even if you don't want to do your MS thesis in data science or machine learning or NLP, still this process is very clear, like very fundamental for finding out very good solutions in any particular field. So firstly, you have to ask an interesting question, right? That what is your scientific goal? What would you do if you had all the data? And what do you want to predict or estimate, right? What would be the input of your system and what would be the output of your system? And is that question is interesting? So this is very important. And obviously in research, when you are doing at MPhil or PhD level, you want to do your research as interesting research, right? So that's why it would be accepted in highly reputed conferences or journals. Otherwise, obviously, it would be 2+2 thing, then obviously no one would be interested to read your paper. So you have, okay, you ask, you have, you are very clear about your interesting question. But the next step is you have to get the data. For example, you have very interesting question about Mars or Jupiter planet, but you don't have data, like NASA or some other institute cannot provide you data, then your interesting question cannot do anything. Okay. So second step is to ask yourself, can you get that data? How you will acquire it? Will you purchase it? Or are there any privacy issues, right? Or is data relevant or not? And after getting the data, you have to explore the data. You can find anomalies. For example, you in transportation, your interesting question is about using um, transportation or public transportation by teenagers, right? But you all the data got from the government institute is without their age. So it means that you cannot find out, okay, this ticket was purchased by a teenager or not, right? So it means that you got the data of public transport for last 10 years. But after exploring the data, you find out that, look, okay, it cannot fulfill my interesting question, right? So that's why this process, you can see links going back to the previous step. So if during the exploration there are anomalies, there are so many outliers in your data, then obviously you have to go back to the previous step and get the new data. And if you cannot get the new data, then obviously you have to go back and ask a new interesting question. Okay. So after the exploration of the data, you have to create the model. And this model is usually based on machine learning algorithms. In NLP, in data science nowadays, right? They are simply statistical model based on nowadays, as a computer scientist, we call them as machine learning models or something, but technically they are mathematical models, statistical models that we use to build a model, right? Um, Many of you definitely have studied like numerical methods in your BS studies or MS studies, like numerical methods in which we have data and we then find to fit regression lines or something, or find some equations to model that data. So very similar to numerical methods, we have statistical methods as well, in which we find regression lines or fit the line, right? In even in our metric or some other very small classes, we do this exercise of fitting the line or some sort of finding slope of the line, right? So this is modeling. So why this modeling is important? Because uh, computers are a good learner, but they know we have to tell what to learn. And once they have been learned, then they can predict on the basis of that learning process, they can predict about new data. Okay, so this modeling is for machine learning thing for computers. So we will build a model, fit the model, and then validate the model. Validation is just testing it. Okay, we are sure that okay, we have 20% data, and we are confident that that this algorithm is making good results or providing good results. After the modeling the data and validating the model, we have to communicate and visualize the results. This is very important. Okay. So if you cannot communicate your findings, then this data science process is just a failure for you. Okay. If you cannot communicate your result, then there is no use of data science process. Example could be like you had very interesting question about crops, let's say wheat, and all the stuff, or rice cultivation thing. But you explore the data, you create a very sophisticated state of the art modeling and all the stuff, but you cannot communicate its results. What if you tell to a farmer that, okay, the alpha and beta value of your crop is 0.229? What he will do with this alpha and beta values, right? Or what if, so you have to make a story. You have to make a telling a short story to the end user or client or a customer, that what does it means that this prediction means that like there would be rain after 2 months, there would be rain after 1 month, or your crop needs this sort of like sprays and all the stuff, right? So communication and visualize the results is very important in data science process. And you can see in this process, out of 5 steps, like yeah. So we usually call nowadays as EDA, right? Exploratory data analysis, EDA. So this process is also here, EDA. This is EDA, exploring the data. And same EDA is here again. Now we are exploring the results, visualizing the results. So nowadays EDA is very important. Visualization of the results is very important task of any data science process. And even if you are working in business analytics or some sort of thing, this EDA is very important, exploratory data analysis. So research could be done like how to correctly or efficiently we can visualize the results, right? EDA. So there are 7 practice areas in text mining. Either you can use information retrieval thing and apply it on search, like Google search, right? You know that how Google works. So its PageRank algorithm and other stuff is just a very big application of text mining, because obviously Google is not hosting that web pages. They just crawl or index all the web pages that are available on the World Wide Web, and but on the basis of different searching algorithms, mainly based on PageRank algorithm, right? They can retrieve very useful information on the basis of query. This is known as query processing, right? So other information or other area could be to explore is document clustering, right? So for example, in document clustering, I have there are some news coming, right? And I want to automatically categorize as sports news, or it could be, let's say, business news. So how I will tag it, right? And some other category, right? Entertainment or some other thing. So this is document clustering. So in machine learning, most of you know that we have two approaches, supervised and unsupervised, right? In supervised approaches, we don't, supervised and unsupervised. Let me write first. Okay. So what does it mean that I will train a model? Here training is required, right? Or labels are required. Okay. So, but in unsupervised, no training is required. So, for example, if I am saying that, okay, for this problem could be a supervised problem, this could be an unsupervised problem. And clustering is a very good example of unsupervised algorithms. And classification is a example of supervised training. Okay. So the only difference is that, like in clustering, I will not tell my computer that what is sports articles, what are the features of sports article, what would be the features of business article. I will not tell. On the basis, only on the basis of data, right? Your algorithm will say, okay, these articles are looking very similar and these sort of articles are looking very similar. So this is cluster one, this is cluster two. Okay, so this is clustering. Then I can analyze, okay, this cluster is very related to sports news and this cluster is related to some religious news or some sort of thing, right? So for example, you have there 1 million books in PDF format and you want to automatically categorize into different categories, then definitely it would be, even if the accuracy is 80 or 90%, then you can imagine that if out of 1 million, if it's accurately predicting the category 80-90% correct, that's fine, because one user will get 10 books on biology automatically. And okay, out of 10, 8, 9 would be regarding biology, or 1, 2 would be some noise or not related to biology. That's fine, right? Instead, he has to find books manually from 1 million books, that 10 books, right? So this is document clustering. In document classification, the process is almost same, but what we do is that, like, we can simply take, let's say, 100 sports news, 100 business news, and 100 entertainment news. We will label it manually, right? And then we will train this process through supervised training. That's why we are calling this as supervised learning, because just like a teacher and student relationship, we are providing, okay, if this document D1 is has features F1, F2, F3, then this value would be, let's say, sports news. Okay. And similarly, for all 1,000 documents, I can label sports or entertainment, right? Business or some sort of thing. So then model will learn, algorithm will learn on the basis of these features and this label. So when I was talking about label thing, this is label. So you can, in simple words, you can say that your category is your label, right? Sports, entertainment, or what is the right. So biology, chemistry, if you want to classify your book. So because of data, if you have huge amount of data, like tweets, if I have millions of tweets on COVID, then obviously I don't have so much time so that I can label thousands of data, and then I can train, and then I can find some interesting patterns. But who will tell supervised learning would have better results or unsupervised learning would have better results? Can anyone tell? Unsupervised?
I guess it's supervised.
Okay. So yeah, in terms of efficiency or in terms of, obviously it depends on the definition of efficiency. Someone says that performance is time-based or training time-based. Then obviously if we don't have time or if we have don't have so much resources that we can train, then obviously that clustering is good. But in terms of accuracy, in terms of correctness, in terms of correctly find out the new data, then we do need supervised training, right? Once we have one model, let's suppose I have somehow labeled 20,000 tweets uh, about hate speech or fake news, right? Then for the new data, I can simply ask my computer or my algorithm or that train model that is this news is fake or not, right? So this is supervised learning. So document clustering is a very good example of unsupervised learning, and document classification. Some people say is categorization as well, document categorization, this sort of thing. So the only difference is that when you are providing labels, features to the system to learn, then this is supervised learning, right? Then we have web mining, information extraction, NLP, more sophisticated or more accurate, like state of the art applications in NLP, right? We will discuss few others as well in the next slides. Then concept extraction, relation between two words, right? Um, so this is another thing. So text mining is around us. We can see sentiment analysis, right? Like if I am, let's suppose, you know, uh, what is the size of Amazon database? Anyone know? And you know that Amazon would have millions of products, right? Obviously, these products are not Amazon's one. Third-party vendors are selling their products on Amazon, but like to store Amazon database, they have ERD. Okay, all of you know that this ERD, right? Entity relationship diagram. And Amazon's ERD comes on 200 plus pages. So you can imagine that if metadata of one database is coming on 200 pages or more than 200 pages, then what would be the actual size of that data, right? So people are reviewing about products, and Amazon and even some other Facebook or all the stuff don't have time to read each and every review. Yeah. So that's why this sentiment analysis provide very good help to companies so that they can automatically check like which features people customers are liking or they are disliking features or not, right? So this is sentiment analysis. It could be movies, sentiment, it could be some other sentiments as well. So document summarization is another task in which we have thousands of documents. Let's suppose we want to write one essay on Pakistan, and obviously we can get thousands of articles on that. But is it possible that we can, from that 1,000 articles, we can automatically generate, right? This is more related to natural language generation. But even if we are not going to generate um, extractive summarization thing, then obviously it's not easy to get 10 lines, crux of 10,000 or 1,000 documents in 10 lines, right? And we don't have time to read that 10,000 articles. That's why we need summarization. So people are working on text summarization, on multiple document summarization, or even different thing. So on Bing, you can see that people, they provide some sort of text summarization, like they get data from Wikipedia, so that even on Google, you can get this thing. So movie recommendation, hotel recommendation, restaurant, right? People are talking about on Yelp that they like this restaurant. What are the aspects? What are the features? For example, for one customer, cost doesn't matter, or even taste doesn't matter. Might be he or she likes quantity, right? Or might be he or she likes atmosphere or service, right? So these are the different aspects in the comments he would be talking. So aspect oriented sentiment analysis is a very good research field. It's like people are working for last 10 years, but still there is a huge research gap is there in aspect based feature analysis, or how I will know I launched this product, what were the features that my customers are liking, right? Might be I launched very um, good bowl for kids, right? So that kids can eat their food in that bowl, but because of its shape and its other thing, people are using that bowl for their cats or dogs. So I will know that, okay, I make this product for kids, but it's not using for kids. It's some other, it's people are using for some other purposes. So we have many examples, interesting examples you can explore on the internet, that people, big companies make different product for different purposes, but people are using for different purposes, not the purpose for which that product was made. So we can recommend news, right? I don't have time to go to CNN, BBC, or RTE, or some other news every time and see, okay, is there any news about Pakistan or something? But on the basis of my previous history, they can recommend me news. Okay, this news is more interesting for you. So in recommendation systems, we can provide customers, like from one shop, if I have purchased or two products, and but someone in, let's say, Australia also bought two products, and then he bought third product from that company, then there is very highly chance that I will also buy that product, because I and that person is having very same pattern of buying pattern, right? Buying pattern. So if I have purchased computer and let's suppose screen, and obviously I would be needing printer sometimes after 6 months or 1 year or something, right? Or headphones or AirPods or something, right? So uh, text mining is also using in text analytics in financial services. You can see that this is a share price of Facebook and sentiments about Facebook, right? So you can see like this orange graph is about sentiments, and this sort of blue or grayish color. I'm very bad in colors. So this bluish color or something is like stock price. So you can see the same trend. If people are not liking Facebook and they are talking about this thing through their sentiments, then almost same spikes are there, right? So if this thing is going up, stock price is also going up, right? Here it's going down, and after some time, stock price is also going down, right? Because people would be definitely talking about more earlier than the stock price, and then this will impact stock price of Facebook. So that's why many companies uh, are looking for people who can do text analytics. So there are so many applications. Like I have talked about this thing, that unique selling proposition. Companies want to know that What are the pain points for customers to use that product, right? Their expectations versus reality. Benchmark your performance against the competition. Understand what customers like, dislike about your product. Churn analysis. Like in Pakistan or in everywhere, we know that people keep shifting their telecom company from one company to another company, right? Uh, so this sort of analysis is known as churn analysis. So why people do leave your company? This is one of the tasks in which many people are working in it. Churn analysis. What are the factors? Like how they will work? Like they know that okay, this 10,000 customers left your company. Let's suppose from Ufone they shifted to Jazz or some other company, right? They have features of that 10,000 customers who shifted their company, right? Your company, they left your company. So on the basis of their data, they can analyze existing customers. Okay, this existing customer has almost same features to the customer who left last year. So it means that probably he is going to leave our company very soon. So they will launch some very fancy advertising or marketing sort of things. That's why when some sort of ads coming on TV, uh, that's not interesting to you because you are not the person of that market segmentation. So they are focused on particular people who like to achieve, let's suppose, 10,000 per SMS in a day, free or some sort of thing, right? So obviously, it wouldn't be interesting feature for us, at least for teachers right now. Yeah, but it would be good for people who are thinking that okay, this SMS cost is very expensive for this company. I should go for a company who is giving, let's suppose, 1,000 SMS per month. So instead of 1,000, they will offer 2,000 SMS per month to retain that customers. So this sort of thing is churn analysis, very interesting field to explore. Understand how customers use your product. I talked about this thing earlier that you made your product for one purpose, but are people are using this product as the same purpose for the same purpose or some other purpose? So these are the simple intersection of different areas. Uh, so if you want to explore, uh, if you come from databases background, then obviously you can explore more information retrieval thing. And if you have some background from computational linguistics, then you can explore concept extraction and NLP applications. So how much time we have, Umar?
Sir, almost 10 minutes.
Okay. So I will quickly go through this thing that why we are facing, what are the challenges in text mining, right? Obviously, the text is free text, like we don't have any structure, right? Or they are semi-structured. But other than that is that natural language itself is very ambiguous. Like as a human, I cannot uh, speak or understand even my native language or write my native language more accurately than it should be. Like I would have many grammar mistakes in even my native language as well. So if that natural language is difficult for humans, then obviously if you are making some systems for machines, then obviously it would have more problems, right? I have added like there have some headlines, like these are the headlines from the newspapers, very reputed newspapers. So headline is that enraged cow injures farmer with axe. So from this heading, we don't know that cow use axe to injure the farmer, or the farmer has this sort of thing and then cow injures him, right? So teacher strikes idle kids, stolen painting found by tree. So these are the headings, very ambiguous headings. Two British ships collide, one dies. So obviously here it means that one person died, right, because of this collision. But the heading is that two British ships collide and one dies. So obviously that we are not talking about ship, but we are talking about humans or persons. Local HS dropouts cut in half, health services dropouts, right? Obviously that not the department who would be cut off, but the finances or some sort of their budget. So we have many same words, same senses, but like if I'm talking about bass fish, or in terms of music, it's bass instrument, right? Spellings are same, right? You can see, so spellings are same. Uh, so how computer will know that this is, we are talking about bass fish or bass instrument, right? So this is one of the problem of lexical semantics and word senses. So we have less time. So, but we have talked about this thing, clustering, text clustering, and document categorization, in which we can classify and all that stuff, right? So I will quickly go through research trends that people in starting their MS research or PhD, if they are looking for NLP, they can explore different areas. So we have different areas in which we can do research in NLP. Transfer learning is very popular technique nowadays, in which what we do is that like we use pre-trained models, right? So is a machine learning technique where a model is trained for one task and repurposed for a task that's related to the main task. So what we do is that, like, if we have one task, we will divide that task into multiple subtasks. And for subtask, we will not train new model, but we will get some already trained model, right? So we just plug in that model and we will get results from. And this sort of thing is transfer learning. And it's very famous in machine learning, like computer vision, especially, right? So every time you need to, let's say, if you, in terms of computer vision, if you want to, let's say, detect edge detection, you want to detect in the image what is the edge. So you don't need to rewrite all the code and training of huge amount of data for detecting edges, right? So you would be using transfer learning for edge detection, but your problem would be different, right? So one subtask in your problem would be edge detection, right? So intent classification in sentiment analysis and named entity recognition problem in NLP, you can people are using transfer learning. Intent classification is very important task where people like in chatbots, first task is to find out the intent of the customer. Like if I'm saying that I want to buy this service from your company, intent is buying, right? So chatbot, your automatic bot should find out that what is the intent of the customer. So this is intent classification. Then second thing is transformers. People are working in it. Like GPT-3 model is there, like from where you can get very good context of the words. They have trained on billions of data set, and they provide API through, you can search on that thing, open API thing, in which you can ask, it's just simply ask questions, question answer things, and all the stuff. Low code tools, obviously, if you have some less coding skills, even you can use many open source libraries. Python has so many open source libraries, like even you can write very basic machine classification or document clustering algorithm in just 3-4 lines maximum. So you can use different packages. Monkey-learn is a good website for low code thing. And multilingual NLP, other than English, there are so many languages like Urdu, Punjabi, Pashto, right? They are under-resourced languages. So if we want to translate English documents automatically into Urdu, or if we we want communication mechanism in multilingual, right? So this sort of thing is very good, and Facebook and Google are currently working on that thing. That they are even publishing their pre-trained models for multilingual models, like Facebook last year, I think. Yeah, so they provide a model which can easily translate within 100 languages. Okay. So yeah, this is a very good area in which you can explore more about multilingual things, because on the Facebook or on the web, you cannot restrict your user to comment in English only or comment in your Urdu only, right? If because world has become global village, people are coming or can access your website from anywhere. So you cannot restrict your customers on Amazon that, okay, do not comment on French or German language. If you don't know, obviously you would need some systems that can read that German language or some other language, right? And understand and do the same stuff as it was doing for English or your Urdu. Hybrid approaches are always welcome. Always people are using hybrid approaches. They can combine supervised and unsupervised approaches, or even for machine learning or deep learning models, they can use different hybrid approaches. So we have one paper on hybrid approaches. You can read later on as well. Fake news detection and cyberbullying is very research field area that people are working on it because of this social media thing. You don't know that people are talking about COVID, uh, uh, that news is true or not, right? So, and even you know that being a Muslim, uh, it's necessary for us to validate the news first. But obviously, we don't do this thing. Quran says, but we don't do this thing, and we just spread the false news about COVID vaccination. All would be died after 2 years or something, right? Without any exploring that information that this person who is saying that is correct or not, or all other news, right? So this sort of thing is fake news detection or cyberbullying problem. Like people are talking hate speech uh, or racism, right? Or insulting someone or offensive language, right? So obviously Facebook don't have so much time that they can sit one person for each comment and they can read and then they delete it. Obviously it will take time if someone report it, but there should be some automatic process to stop that cyberbullying thing. So people are working in cyberbullying detection, fake news detection. Um, so it's a good field to explore. Recently, we also have one paper on fake news detection. So you can read, and this is a very good paper to because in this paper we also added literature survey as well, other than providing experiments and all the stuff. So if you want to start fake news detection thing, it's a good starting point to get about this thing. Lastly, we have RL methods, reinforcement learning methods. So what is reinforcement learning is that we would be doing process again and again on the trial basis, and on the basis of error, we use this error as a feedback, and we will explore or we will enhance our previous model, right? It's just like a coach who is giving you training on some football or some cricket academy, and once you have one match, he will write down your mistakes in the match, and then he will tell you, and then hopefully in the next match you will not repeat your mistakes. Yeah. So this is reinforcement algorithms, and they are very famous nowadays in NLP applications, recommendation systems. So even before this talk, I have very short meeting with one company who wants to work on RL recommendation system. So I think industry also wants to work on this thing. So even if as a like BS students are there, so we have discussed many applications, but as a developer, you can make very small applications which can help your customers, because you would be making products or developing products that would be related to the customers. And if you can add NLP applications, very small applications in your systems through development, that would be very nice. And obviously your customers would have a very good experience while dealing with your application, right? So we can train models with RL, and we can use for question answering, machine translation, and summarization. So you can explore, there are so many reputed conferences and journals. Don't go with journals that are published in less reputed places. Okay. So always aim for higher things instead of just easy ride. I'm talking this thing to my MS and PhD students. So your goal should be high, right? Your goal shouldn't be just passing the time or just getting a MS or PhD degree. Obviously, you will get degree somehow anyway in after some time, but after that, that degree wouldn't help you to proceed. Might be you can get some normal, decent job in Pakistan as well, uh, but there would be no learning. There would be no more thing of usage of your education. So these are the good, very good conferences. I always prefer students to go to top conferences, and especially their short papers, because that short papers are very new ideas, and they are accepted because community wants to explore that thing, right? And mostly short papers are done by PhD or MS students. So it means that it's ongoing research area in which people or community of that particular field wants to explore more. So for MS or PhD students, just go to these top conferences, ACL, EMNLP, Calling, right? Or EACL or CoNL. Go to any, just shortlist 5-10 short papers just on the basis of their title. If their title is interesting to you, then you can download that 5-6 papers and read their abstract. And out of 5-6, there, if you find one abstract very good, or according to your interest, or it's more if you want to explore it, then you can read that paper, and then you can think about working in that area. And obviously in that paper, at the end, in conclusion, in future, they would have suggested that in that direction we can go further. So you can explore more and make your MS thesis title or even PhD thing from there. So I would stop here now. This is my email address. If you want to, if you have any question later on, you can email me, or, but right now we have some time. You can question if you have any question.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. सर बहुत अच्छा सेशन था. डाटा जो है, डाटा इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इट इज़ द मेन पॉइंट ऑफ फोकस फॉर नाउ. इवन के जो लोग पहले इसको समझ रहे थे कि इट विल टेक टाइम, इट विल टेक डिकेड्स टू ग्रो, उनको भी रियलाइज़ हो गया कि इट इज़ ग्रोन नाउ, और इवन के इट इज़ जनरेटिंग थाउजेंड ऑफ जॉब्स इन दिस फील्ड. And most important के the most crucial part is the processing of this data and extracting information from it. So the session is very impressive. And आपने स्टार्ट से स्टार्ट किया, डाटा क्या होता है, वहाँ से लेकर आपने एंड तक उसकी केस स्टडीज़, उसके कौन कौन से फील्ड्स हैं, किस किस में स्टूडेंट को जाना चाहिए, आपने अच्छी गाइड प्रोवाइड की. थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. सो इफ एनीवन हैव क्वेश्चन, देन यू आर फ्री टू आस्क.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर.
जी
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि बीइंग एन एंड्रॉयड डेवलपर, अगर मैं इस फील्ड की तरफ प्रोसीड करना चाहूँगा तो मुझे मतलब कितनी एफर्ट करनी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि एज सच मेरे पास नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग का या मशीन लर्निंग का इतना ज़्यादा नॉलेज नहीं है कि मैं डायरेक्टली जो है एंड्रॉयड से इस पर शिफ्ट करूँ या एंड्रॉयड के अंदर इस चीज़ पे एम्बेड करूँ। तो इस लिहाज से आप किसी से गाइड करेंगे?
देखिए, फर्स्टली आपको मैं तो यही कहूँगा कि सबसे पहले आपको डेटा के साथ खेलना आना चाहिए, ठीक है। सो अगर आप इवन एंड्रॉयड डेवलपर हैं, वी हैव सम एप्लीकेशंस जो हमने एंड्रॉयड के लिए बनाई फॉर डिफरेंट कंपनीज। फॉर एग्जांपल यू नो दैट के यूट्यूब पे ट्रांसक्रिप्ट्स अवेलेबल होती हैं। अगर आप इंग्लिश में बोल रहे हो तो वो आपको ऑटोमेटिकली उसके कैप्शंस और टाइटल्स वगैरह जो है वो सारे जनरेट कर देता है यूट्यूब। सो व्हाट we were doing is that in Android application or something, people can simply get record their some video and then get their transcription from via Google, YouTube और upload करके और इस तरह का सारे काम करके, ठीक है। सो या इवन एक सिंपल सी एप्लीकेशन थी जो स्टूडेंट्स ने कुछ बनाई थी कि आपके पास लेट्स सपोज आप ऐड करते हो कि मैंने आज एक एप्पल खाया है, लेट्स से वो 100 ग्राम उसका साइज था या वेट था, तो उसमें कितनी कैलोरीज थी, राइट। तो इस तरह की स्मॉल सी एंड्रॉयड एप्लीकेशन आप बना सकते हो जो टेक्स्ट को एनालाइज करे और बैकएंड पे डेटाबेस से वो कैलोरीज का काउंट करके लेके आके उसको दे दे। बट ऑब्वियसली आपको ये फाइंड आउट पहले करना पड़ेगा कि जो सेंटेंस है उसमें इंग्रेडिएंट कौन सा है ना। उसमें एप्पल के बारे में बात हो रही है, पिज़्ज़ा के बारे में बात हो रही है, या किस चीज़ के बारे में बात हो रही है, बिकॉज देर आर सो मैनी कंफ्यूजिंग टर्म्स एज वेल कि वो, अब जैसे मैं बेकिंग सोडा कहूँगा तो बेकिंग सोडा एक मतलब एक कंबाइन करके वर्ड बनता है, राइट। लेकिन बेकिंग इस कोई इंग्रेडिएंट नहीं है, बेकिंग चीज़, ठीक है। सोडा अगर मैं उसको अलग कर दूंगा तो वो एक डिफरेंट चीज़ बन जाएगी, बट बेकिंग सोडा इज डिफरेंट थिंग। सो इस तरह के आप कर सकते हैं। सो आप अपने डेटाबेस के कोर्स को दोबारा से पढ़ें, ऑनलाइन पढ़ें डेटाबेस के कोर्स को। आपको डेटा, क्योंकि डेटाबेस आना ज़रूरी है, पता होना चाहिए। देन ट्राई टू लर्न पाइथन, इट्स वेरी वेरी इजी। अगर आप C++ जावा में, एंड्रॉयड जावा बेस है, ठीक है, अगर आप उसमें कोडिंग कर सकते हैं तो पाइथन में आपको हार्डली 10% लेस एफर्ट्स करनी पड़ेंगी एज कम्पेयर टू जावा, ठीक है। जावा ज़्यादा डिफिकल्ट है टू राइट कोड। बाकी आपको पता है कि हर प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस का जो क्रक्स है उसका प्रोग्रामिंग फंडामेंटल कॉन्सेप्ट सेम है। लूप्स का जो कॉन्सेप्ट जावा में है वही कॉन्सेप्ट पाइथन में है, वही कॉन्सेप्ट विजुअल बेसिक में है या C++ में, राइट। सिर्फ सिंटैक्स का फर्क है। और सिंटैक्स तो आप बुक उठा के नेट पे अभी आप लिखें हाउ टू राइट फॉर लूप इन अ पाइथन, आपको 10 सेकंड में पता चल जाएगा कि ओके आपको पता है कि एक लूप में। तो आप इजीली अगर शिफ्ट करना चाहते हैं एंड्रॉयड डेवलपमेंट से तो फिर भी कर सकते हैं। आप पाइथन को लर्न करें, आप स्टैटिस्टिक्स या प्रोबेबिलिटी के कोर्स को रिवाइज करें एक दफ़ा, और डेटाबेस के कोर्स को रिवाइज करें और डेटा के साथ खेलना शुरू कर दें। मतलब उसको लोड करना, उसको क्लीन करना, ये सबसे मुश्किल काम है। इसके बाद तो आपके पास हंड्रेड्स ऑफ एल्गोरिथम्स हैं जो ऑलरेडी इम्प्लीमेंटेड हैं मशीन लर्निंग में, वो आप उस पर अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, रिजल्ट्स ले सकते हैं। लास्ट ईयर नहीं, 2020 में तो पाकिस्तान में नहीं था, शायद 2019 में मैं कायद आज़म यूनिवर्सिटी आया था, आपके इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स डिपार्टमेंट में। मैं उन लोगों ने एक टॉक रखी हुई थी कि फिर मैंने ही उनको टाइटल सजेस्ट किया कि क्या एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स इंजीनियर डेटा साइंटिस्ट बन सकता है या नहीं बन सकता। सो इन 2019 मोस्ट प्रोबेबली ये थी मेरी टॉक। तो ऑब्वियसली जब भी, क्योंकि आपके पास सेंसर्स हैं, डेटा है, जब भी डेटा होगा तो आप उस पर एक अच्छा डेटा साइंटिस्ट के तौर पे काम कर सकते हो, ठीक है। आप इवन अगर आप इंडस्ट्री में भी काम कर रहे होगे सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट हाउसेज में, तो आप देखोगे कि आपके पास जब डेटा आता है क्लाइंट का और आपने इवन उसको एप्लीकेशन में जब ऐड करना होता है, मतलब लेट्स सपोज उसका 5 साल का लेगेसी सिस्टम से डेटा आ रहा है, तो आपको उसको क्लीन करना पड़ेगा, आपको उसको प्री प्रोसेस करना पड़ेगा, उसमें बहुत सारे इश्यूज आते हैं। तो ये सारी चीज़ें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, डेटा को एक्सप्लोर करना, उसको क्लीन करना, प्री प्रोसेस करना। यहाँ तक अगर आपने काम सीख लिया है या कर लेते हो तो आगे टेक्स्ट माइनिंग बहुत आसान है। फिर तो आपने सिर्फ एल्गोरिथम्स लगाने हैं, उनको अप्लाई करना है, 3-4 लाइनों का कोड रह जाता है पीछे।
सर आई हैव क्वेश्चन के जैसे आपने बताया कि ऑलमोस्ट 80% डाटा जो है वो अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड है, स्ट्रक्चर्ड नहीं है, लेकिन मशीन लर्निंग के या न्यूरल नेटवर्क के मोस्टली एल्गोरिथम्स हैं वो स्ट्रक्चर्ड डाटा पे काम करते हैं, तो हमें अनस्ट्रक्चर को भी स्ट्रक्चर में कन्वर्ट करना पड़ता है। तो ऐसा क्यों है? हालांकि ज़्यादा डाटा तो अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड है, तो उसके लिए डायरेक्ट एल्गोरिथम या उस पर काम करने के लिए क्यों नहीं मिलता?
जी सही है। उसमें आप देखें कि आपके कंप्यूटर्स को सिर्फ मैथ्स समझ आता है, 1-0 समझ आता है, राइट? हमें पता है सबको कि बैकएंड पे बाइनरी रिप्रेजेंटेशन है सारी की सारी। सो अगर हमारे पास डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्ड नहीं होगा तो हम उसको इक्विवेलेंट रिप्रेजेंटेशन में नहीं कन्वर्ट कर सकते इजीली। सो इसीलिए हमें अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड डेटा को, क्योंकि कंप्यूटर सिर्फ मैथ जानता है, 1-0 के साथ खेल सकता है, वो उसको इवन करेक्टर्स का भी नहीं पता। आप सबको पता है ना कि फिर हम उसको कन्वर्ट करते हैं, नंबर्स में ही कन्वर्ट करते हैं, ASCII कोड में कन्वर्ट कर रहे होते हैं ना। सो इसलिए आपका जो अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड डेटा है वो नहीं रन हो सकता हमारे कंप्यूटर्स पे, हमें उसे समहाउ कोई यूजफुल मैथमेटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन में काम करना पड़ेगा, ठीक है? जब हम उसे मैथमेटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन में कन्वर्ट करेंगे तब हम वो वाले तमाम एल्गोरिथम्स उस पर अप्लाई कर सकते हैं जो न्यूमेरिकल डेटा पे अप्लाई होते थे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल रिप्रेजेंटेशन बहुत आसान हो सकती है। लेट्स सपोज मेरे पास 2 बुक्स हैं, मैं उनके तमाम वर्ड्स का फीचर बना लेता हूँ, एक वर्ड एक फीचर होगा। तो लेट्स सपोज 40,000 के मेरे पास फीचर्स आ गए, राइट? 40,000 वोकैबुलरी साइज आ गया। वोकैबुलरी आप कह लें कि डिस्टिंक्ट या यूनिक वर्ड्स आ गए आपके पास। तो अब जब 40,000 आ गए तो अब मैं ये कह सकता हूँ कि बुक 1 में जो जो आपके पास वर्ड आ रहा होगा मैं उसको 1 से रिप्रेजेंट कर दूंगा, और जो नहीं आ रहा होगा उसको मैं 0 से रिप्रेजेंट कर दूंगा। दिस इज वेरी सिंपल बाइनरी रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ योर टेक्सचुअल डेटा। सो अब आपके पास वेक्टर आ गया फॉर बुक 1, फॉर बुक 2, फॉर बुक 3, फॉर बुक 4, राइट? 1 0 0 1 1, इस तरह आपने उसको डेटा को रिप्रेजेंट कर लिया। अब आपके पास ये मैथमेटिकल फॉर्म में रिप्रेजेंटेशन आ गई है। अब आप उस पर कोसाइन सिमिलैरिटी लगा लें, आप इस पे कोई भी डिस्टेंस का फार्मूला लगा लें, जो आप मैथ्स में डिफरेंट फार्मूले पढ़ते रहे हैं, ठीक है? कैलकुलस में आपने डिफरेंट फार्मूले पढ़े हैं, ठीक है? या डिस्क्रीट स्ट्रक्चर्स में पढ़े होंगे आप लोगों ने। सो अब आसान हो गया काम। तो हम अपने टेक्स्ट डेटा को या अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड डेटा को कन्वर्ट करते हैं न्यूमेरिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन में। once they are converted then it's very easy to apply all the mathematical formulas। हम कोई भी डिस्टेंस का फार्मूला लगा के बहुत इजीली फाइंड आउट कर सकते हैं कि कौन से डॉक्यूमेंट्स आपस में करीब हैं और कौन से डॉक्यूमेंट्स दूर हैं, राइट? क्लस्टरिंग कर सकते हैं, आसानी से क्लस्टरिंग कर सकते हैं। बट पीपल आर ऑब्वियसली, ये बहुत नाइव सी अप्रोच है 1-0 वाली, लेकिन वेट्स आप दे सकते हैं, डिफरेंट उस पर कर सकते हैं। तो मशीन लर्निंग के तमाम एल्गोरिथम्स जो हैं वो टेक्स्ट के इसी तरह काम करते हैं कि वो उसको कन्वर्ट करते हैं मैथमेटिकल वेक्टर की फॉर्म में, मैट्रिक्स की फॉर्म में। आपके पास m/n की मैट्रिक्स बन जाती है, देन यू कैन अप्लाई डिफरेंट, तभी आप उस पर स्टैटिस्टिक्स अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, तभी आप उस पर प्रोबेबिलिस्टिक अप्रोचेस अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। तो इसलिए ये ज़रूरी है क्योंकि हमारे कंप्यूटर्स सिर्फ मैथमेटिकल काम कर सकते हैं, ठीक है?
सर एक चीज़ और के डाटा की प्रोसेसिंग पे तो बहुत सारा काम हो चुका है, लेकिन सिक्योरिटी ऑफ डाटा स्टिल अ बिग क्वेश्चन, तो इस पे आपका क्या कमेंट है?
सिक्योरिटी ऑब्वियसली आप आजकल पीपल जो हैं वो कंप्यूटर साइंस में रिसर्च साइबर सिक्योरिटी पे बहुत ज़्यादा चल रही है, और नो डाउट जब इतना ज़्यादा डेटा आएगा तो आपको उसको सिक्योरली कहीं पे रखना पड़ेगा, उसमें प्राइवेसी के इश्यूज आएंगे, ठीक है? और सिक्योरिटी के हवाले से तो इम्पोर्टेंस तो हमेशा रहेगी, नीड तो हमेशा रहेगी। जब आपके पास इतना ज़्यादा डेटा है और अगर वो कॉन्फिडेंशियल डेटा है, लेट्स सपोज वो पेशेंट्स की हिस्ट्री का डेटा है कि उसको कौन कौन सी बीमारी कब कब थी, तो आप उसे पब्लिक के साथ शेयर नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है। सो इवन यूरोप में, यूएस में तो बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट लॉज हैं इस प्राइवेसी पे, और आपको पता है कि कई दफ़ा गूगल और फेसबुक पे बहुत ज़्यादा फाइन्स हुए हैं इस बात पे, ठीक है, कि उन्होंने प्राइवेसी को जो है वो किया है। अभी इस साल वो व्हाट्सएप की प्राइवेसी सेटिंग्स का इशू भी रहा है, ठीक है। सो इस तरह की चीज़ें एज अ कंप्यूटर साइंटिस्ट, तो अब आपको जब भी डेटा के साथ काम करना पड़ेगा तो आपको प्राइवेसी और जब आपकी कंप्यूटर की सिक्योरिटी, डेटा की सिक्योरिटी पे खास ख्याल रखना पड़ेगा। और स्पेशली अगर आपका ट्रांजैक्शनल फिनेंसेस से रिलेटेड डेटा है, तो आप खुद ही सोचें कि अगर किसी के बैंक का डेटा कोई हैक कर ले, क्रेडिट कार्ड्स या डेबिट कार्ड्स की इंफॉर्मेशन, तो कितना नुकसान हो सकता है बैंक्स को भी और ऑब्वियसली कस्टमर्स को भी। सो साइबर सिक्योरिटी एक डिफरेंट फील्ड है, और इसमें आप डिफरेंट देख सकते हो अटैक्स को। अगर आप डेटा माइनिंग वाली साइड से आ सकते हो तो वो भी हो सकता है, क्योंकि जैसे नेटवर्क इंट्रूजन डिटेक्शन है या कोई और चीज़ है, तो इसमें आपने डेटा का एनालाइज ही करना है, उन ऐसे पैटर्न्स को एनालाइज करना है जो आगे जाके वायरस हो सकते हैं या कोई ऐसी चीज़ हो सकती है। तो ये भी फील्ड है, लेकिन ऑब्वियसली डायरेक्टली मतलब हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि डेटा माइनिंग और साइबर सिक्योरिटी एक ही चीज़ है, क्योंकि इसमें नेटवर्क्स भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा आ जाता है, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम भी आ जाता है, ठीक है। तो आपका ओएस, आपका नेटवर्क्स, और आपके ये डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड कंप्यूटिंग के डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स और डेटा इटसेल्फ। सो ये 3-4 फील्ड्स मिलके फिर साइबर सिक्योरिटी के हवाले से एक अच्छा सोल्यूशन जो है वो दे सकते हैं।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
स्टूडेंट्स के अगर और क्वेश्चन हो तो वो कर सकते हैं। अच्छा डॉक्टर साहब, एक मेरा क्वेश्चन था, बिकॉज जो मेरी फील्ड है वो मल्टीमीडिया इंफॉर्मेशन रिट्रीवल है ना, तो उसमें जो आर्गुमेंट ये है कि जी अब आपकी जो नॉन टेक्सचुअल कंटेंट्स ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं एज़ कम्पेयर टू टेक्सचुअल कंटेंट्स, जिस तरह से इमेजेस, वीडियो, ऑडियो जो है वो बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं, तो इनको अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए भी यू नीड सम काइंड ऑफ प्रोसेसिंग, जिस तरह से नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग है। तो अल्टीमेटली तो वो जब अप्लाई करते हैं तो आपके पास जो रिजल्ट्स आते हैं वो नेचुरल लैंग्वेज की शक्ल में आ सकते हैं, जिस तरह से सीन एनालिसिस है या ऑब्जेक्ट डिटेक्शन है, उस पर बहुत ज़्यादा काम हो रहा है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि एक साइड पे लोग दे आर फोकसिंग मोर ऑन टेक्सचुअल कंटेंट्स, एंड वन साइड जो आपकी मल्टीमीडिया रिट्रीवल है ये थोड़ी सी वीक रह गई है, इस पे बहुत ज़्यादा काम आपको नहीं मिलता। तो इस बारे में क्या कहेंगे कि हम इन दोनों फील्ड्स को कैसे आपस में कंबाइन कर सकते हैं?
जी बिल्कुल सही है, नो डाउट इस पे रिसर्च कम हो रही है, और उसकी एक सबसे बड़ी वजह यह है कि मल्टीमीडिया जो डेटा है उसको एक्सप्लोर करने के लिए या उसको लर्न करने के लिए आपको बहुत ज़्यादा रिसोर्सेज चाहिए। मतलब मेरे पास अगर गीगाबाइट्स में कोई वीडियोस हैं या डिफरेंट डेटा सेट्स हैं, तो मैं उनको, आपको सबको पता ही है कि हम उस वीडियो को टेक्निकली वो एक जेपैग में कन्वर्ट होगी, और इसके बाद वो हर फ्रेम्स के 60 के करीब वो जेपैग बनेंगे या जिस पे भी उसको स्टोर किया गया होगा, ठीक है, जिस भी रेट पे। तो आप खुद सोचें कि अगर 1 सेकंड की आप 60 इमेजेस स्टोर करेंगे और वो 1 घंटे की वीडियो है, तो कितनी ज़्यादा इमेजेस होंगी फॉर वन वीडियो। और अगर उस तरह की 10,000 या 15,000 आपके पास वीडियोस हैं, तो प्रोसेसिंग एक बहुत बड़ी हर्डल है कि उन वीडियोस को प्रोसेस करना। और जिस तरह उमर ने बात की बिल्कुल सही है, सीन एनालिसिस बहुत ज़्यादा लोग काम कर रहे हैं। हम लोगों ने भी एक प्रोजेक्ट किया जिसपे हमने इमेज से ऑटोमेटिकली कैप्शंस को जनरेट किया कि फॉर एग्जांपल आप कोई भी इमेज मुझे दें और सिस्टम जो है वो ये बताएगा कि इसमें एक ब्लू कलर का जो बर्ड है वो लेट्स सपोज लेक के ऊपर उड़ रहा है या समथिंग इस तरह की चीज़ें कर रहा है, या माउंटेन्स हैं और देयर इज वन डॉग इन ऑन द माउंटेन टॉप और समथिंग, राइट। सो इस तरह की चीज़ें जो हैं वो ज़रूरत है, बिल्कुल ज़रूरत है इसकी। फेसबुक के हवाले से आप देखें या इंस्टाग्राम के हवाले से देखें कि अगर आप सर्च करना चाहते हैं कि आपको कोई पर्टिकुलर पिक्चर चाहिए, until and unless किसी ने बहुत अच्छी टैगिंग की हुई है और उसके नीचे एक कैप्शन लिखा हुआ है, लेकिन आपको पता है कि फ्लिकर पे और उस पे इंस्टाग्राम पे लोग जो हैं वो ठीक है, जब एक आध पिक्चर तो अपलोड करते हैं फिर तो ठीक है फ्लिकर वगैरह पे, लेकिन जब वो बल्क में 100 या 200 पिक्चर्स करते हैं तो वो सब पे अच्छे कैप्शनिंग नहीं दे रहे होते, ठीक है। तो आपको अगर उसको सर्च करना है, आपको उसको फाइंड आउट करना है, ऐसी पिक्चर जिसमें लेट्स सपोज 2 माउंटेन्स के बीच में से एक दरिया जा रहा है, तो आपको किसी मशीन लर्निंग या डेटा माइनिंग एप्लीकेशन से हेल्प लेनी पड़ेगी। सो एक अच्छा फील्ड है ये मल्टीमीडिया और वीडियोस को मर्ज करके विद डेटा माइनिंग और टेक्स्ट माइनिंग। बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग एप्लीकेशंस बन सकती हैं, इस पे लोग काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हमारे साथ प्रॉब्लम यही है कि उसकी अगर आपको जीपीयू मशीन्स चाहिए, उसके लिए आपको डीप लर्निंग मेथड्स के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा रिसोर्सेज चाहिए। तो रिसोर्सेज की कमी पूरी वर्ल्ड में है, सिर्फ पाकिस्तान में नहीं है, पूरे वर्ल्ड में ही ऐसे है कि आपके पास एक एक ग्रुप के पास बहुत बहुत लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज हैं। लेकिन अगर रिसर्च आइडियाज़ अच्छे हों तो आप लोग एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, कौन लोग इसमें काम कर रहे हैं और उनके साथ कोलैबोरेट कर सकते हैं। तो एक इंटरेस्टिंग फील्ड है मल्टीमीडिया।
जिस तरह से मैंने लास्ट टाइम यही देख रहा था कि इस किस्म की प्रोसेसिंग फैसिलिटी कहाँ पे है, तो मैंने देखा कि यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ग्लासगो में अच्छी फैसिलिटीज़ हैं मल्टीमीडिया प्रोसेसिंग के हवाले से। उनके पास काफ़ी हाई स्पीड डिवाइसेस और सारा कुछ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है। तो लेकिन ये है कि सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में नहीं, हम भी देखें तो हमारे पास भी उस लेवल की शायद रिसोर्सेज नहीं है कि हम उसको ना प्रोसेस करवा सकें। लेकिन ये है कि कुछ सालों तक तो ये हो रहा है कि ये डाटा बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है, इट्स अ ह्यूज डाटा। जो आप यूट्यूब का सिर्फ डाटा देख लें तो वो कितना ज़्यादा है, इवन कि अगर हम उन कंटेंट्स को देखना चाहें तो वो देख भी नहीं सकते, क्योंकि हर एक मिनट बाद शायद कई घंटे का जो कंटेंट है वो अपलोड हो जाता है। सो डेफिनेटली इन फ्यूचर फिर हमें जाना पड़ेगा, अगर इस डाटा से हमने फ़ायदा उठाना है कोई, जो इसके ऊपर फ्लिकर के ऊपर है इमेजेस, फिर यूट्यूब के ऊपर वीडियोस हैं, फिर आपके पास आप देखें ट्विटर का डाटा, तो वहाँ पे भी आप इमेजेस काफ़ी मिकदार में आ जाते हैं। तो वो डेफिनेटली इस डाटा को अंडरस्टैंड करना पड़ेगा इन नेक्स्ट 10 ईयर्स या कुछ सालों तक, बिकॉज दैट डाटा इज़ हेट्रोजीनियस, दैट इज़ वेरी कम्प्लेक्स, लेकिन हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट है कि इसको अब अंडरस्टैंड किया जाए। तो
जी
चलें देखते हैं इस पर क्या काम होता है इन फ्यूचर, क्योंकि मैं खुद इसमें काम करता हूँ तो मुझे काफ़ी ज़्यादा मसाइल आते हैं इसमें ना। स्पेशली मेरे मोस्टली प्रोजेक्ट भी मल्टीमीडिया के होते हैं और मेरी रिसर्च भी पीएचडी की इसी बारे में थी, मल्टीमीडिया रिट्रीवल के हवाले से, तो मुझे काफ़ी ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स आए इसमें।
बिल्कुल सही है। अभी ऑनलाइन लेक्चर्स रिकॉर्ड करने होते हैं तो रिकॉर्डिंग में ही हमारा कंप्यूटर चीखना शुरू कर देता है। तो
हाँ वही
तो
वो मैंने
आपके पास जी
हाँ उसी तरह मैंने वो मुझे याद है कि वो डाटा सेट इतना बड़ा नहीं था 10,000, तो मैंने उसके स्विफ्ट फीचर निकालने थे, तो वो मैंने उसको एल्गोरिथम लिखा, मैटलैब में लगा दिया उसको ना, तो वो मुझे उसका एस्टिमेट था कई दिन लगा देगा वो उनको एक्सट्रैक्ट करने में। तो फिर वो मुझे देखना पड़ा कि उन रूटीन्स को दरमियान में रोकें कैसे, फिर कौन से फीचर सेट्स निकालें जो लाइट वेट हों, जो ऑनलाइन प्रोसेसिंग में यूज़ हों, तो फिर वो ढूंढने पड़ते हैं आपको। तो काफ़ी ज़्यादा मसाइल हैं इस फील्ड के अंदर, स्पेशली मल्टीमीडिया के अंदर देखेंगे।
जी जी
चलिए डॉक्टर साहब, अच्छी आपकी डिस्कशन थी। मैं सारी तो नहीं सुन सका क्योंकि हमारा एक पीएचडी का साइनॉप्सिस था, वो भी इन पैरेलल चल रहा था, तो रिकॉर्डिंग्स हैं, होपफुली मैं उनको फिर दोबारा देख लूँगा, आपको भी वो रिकॉर्डिंग शेयर कर लेंगे आपसे भी। सो इन फ्यूचर अगर कोई और इस तरह का टॉपिक हो तो फिर हम उसको फिर भी कर सकते हैं, इस तरह की टॉक्स वगैरह ना।
जी ज़रूर ज़रूर।
चलिए थैंक यू डॉक्टर साहब। ओके
जी शुक्रिया आप सब लोगों का। अल्लाह हाफिज़।
अल्लाह हाफिज़।
अल्लाह हाफिज़।